Just imagine, I came to the wedding of my daughter, the child I had poured my entire life into. But she looked at me with cold eyes and said, "Mom, I'm sorry, but you weren't invited. Go away." I turned and walked out quietly, my heart shattered by the betrayal. Yet within 2 hours, her flawless wedding collapsed into a nightmare. Revenge. Number. It was justice. The champagne glass slipped from my trembling hand. Crystal shards scattered across the marble floor like fallen stars. Each fragment mirrored the shock on my daughter's face. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Emily's voice cut through the elegant chatter of the wedding guests. Her wedding dress, the very one I had sacrificed $12,000 for, rustled sharply as she stepped back from me. "You shouldn't have come." I stood frozen in the entrance to the grand ballroom, still clutching the hand-wrapped gift box. Imported white roses from Ecuador filled every corner, their scent mingling with the heavy scent of expensive perfume and sharp judgment. The chandelier above scattered rainbow patterns across the walls that had cost me 3 months of hard-earned savings to rent. "Sweetheart, it's your wedding day," I said, my voice sounding smaller than I had meant it to. "I just wanted to congratulate you both." Michael appeared beside her, his tuxedo perfectly tailored, his smile as sharp and cold as winter. "Mom, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "What misunderstanding?" I asked, my eyes shifting between the two of them, searching Emily's face, searching for the little girl who once begged me to push her higher on the swing set. Emily's glance darted toward the guests who were watching us. Women in designer gowns whispered behind crystal champagne flutes. Men in $1,000 suits pretended not to stare while clearly straining to catch every word. This is a private family celebration," she finally said, her voice tight with embarrassment. "Immediate family only." The words struck me like ice water poured down my spine. 28 years of bedtime stories, of school plays, of dance recitals, all of it collapsed into that single cruel sentence. 28 years of choosing her college fund over my own retirement, her happiness over my comfort. "I paid for this wedding, Emily," I said, my voice steady, plain fact. "Every flower, every plate, even the dress you're wearing." Michael's jaw tightened. "Money doesn't buy class, Mom." Michael's words cut like a blade, and Emily, not meeting my eyes, whispered, "He's right. This isn't about money. It's about fitting in. You don't understand the kind of people who are here." Oh, but I understood perfectly. Mothers who had sacrificed their lives to fund these banquets, mothers who had built their children's future from nothing. Such women weren't welcome at their glittering parties. The woman who had sacrificed everything so her daughter could marry into their glittering world had already served her purpose. Around us, every conversation had stopped. A photographer lowered his camera, frozen. The string quartet kept playing, oblivious to the storm breaking in their elegant backdrop. "I see." I placed the gift box gently on a nearby table, between untouched champagne flutes and flawless white orchids. "I wouldn't want to embarrass you." "Mom, please don't make this harder than it needs to be." I studied her face, memorizing the features I had kissed goodnight for 18 years. Her mother's green eyes, once bright, now cold as river stones. The smile I had worked overtime to pay for braces on, now turned away from me. "You're right," I whispered. "I don't belong here." The walk to the exit stretched like a marathon. My worn heels clicked against the marble, echoing like judgment. Whispered conversations swelled behind me. Someone let out a laugh, high-pitched, artificial, cutting. My modest heels, polished just for this day, felt unbearably heavy against the pristine marble floor. Outside, the spring air rushed into my lungs like sudden freedom. The parking lot stretched before me, lined with luxury cars I could never dream of affording. My thumb hovered over the contact name, First National Bank Business Services. Inside that ballroom, my daughter was celebrating her new life without me. Outside, I was about to begin mine, without her. The phone rang once before someone answered. Behind me, the heavy doors sealed shut with the finality of a vault closing. The wedding music faded into hushed whispers as I walked across the asphalt toward my old car, each step more deliberate than the last. The gift box stayed behind on their table, abandoned, just like everything else I had ever given them. The March wind carried the scent of approaching rain. Darker clouds gathered above the venue's Gothic spires, casting long shadows over luxury vehicles that cost more than most families' homes. My modest heels crunched on the gravel as I reached the car. The keys were already in my hand. Inside the cab, silence wrapped around me like armor. The dashboard clock glowed. 3:47 p.m., enough time before the banks closed on Saturday, enough time to make several important calls. I scrolled through my contacts until I found what I needed. First National Bank Business Services appeared on the screen. My finger hovered, hesitating for exactly 3 seconds before pressing call. First National, this is Patricia speaking. How may I assist you? Patricia, this is Catherine Flores, account number 7794512. I need to initiate stop payments on several authorized transactions. Of course, Mrs. Flores, let me pull up your account. Can you verify your social security number and your mother's maiden name? Standard procedure. I provided the information calmly while watching more guests arrive through the venue's grand entrance. Women in silk dresses, men adjusting their expensive cufflinks, none of them had any idea what was about to unfold. Thank you. I see several large transactions from today. Which ones specifically? All wedding-related payments, I answered without hesitation. Venue rental, catering deposit, floral arrangements, photography, music services. Each item rolled off my tongue like an inventory list. Implementation needs to be immediate. Ma'am, these are significant amounts. Are you certain about stopping all payments? Completely certain, I replied, my voice steady as stone. There's been a change in circumstances. Keyboard clicks filled the silence. I'll need authorization codes for transactions over $10,000. I recited the codes from memory without hesitation. 65 years of living and 25 years of managing every bill, every receipt, every sacrifice had taught me to remember the important numbers, every contract detail, every payment authorization. Stop payments are now in effect. Confirmation numbers are being generated. Is there anything else? That covers the banking side. Thank you, Patricia. My next call went to Spokane's premier catering company, the very one Emily had insisted on, despite their astronomical prices. Elegant Affairs Catering. This is Marcus. Marcus, this is Catherine Flores. I'm calling about the Anderson wedding reception happening right now. Oh yes, Mrs. Flores. Everything is going beautifully. The guests are raving about the appetizers. I'm afraid there's been a financial complication, I said evenly. Payment authorization has been revoked. You'll want to protect your equipment and remaining food service. Silence stretched between us. Then, I'm sorry. What exactly are you saying? The bank has stopped payment on your contract, effective immediately. I suggest you secure your assets. But we're in the middle of service. The main course hasn't even been served. That's unfortunate timing. My voice remained steady, professional. You might want to speak with the wedding party about alternative payment arrangements. Marcus disconnected without another word. A smart man, Marcus. The florist answered on the second ring. Bellingham Blooms, Susan speaking. Susan, this is Catherine Flores regarding the Anderson wedding flowers. Mrs. Flores, the arrangements look stunning. The bride was so pleased with the orchids. There's been a payment issue. Bank authorization has been canceled. You'll need to collect your arrangements if you want to salvage any value. Collect them? But they're integrated into the entire venue design. Business is business, Susan. I suggest you move quickly. 3 more calls followed. Photography services, the string quartet, even the linen rental company. Each conversation followed the same pattern. Professional courtesy first, then growing alarm, then rushed disconnections as each vendor scrambled to protect themselves. My phone read 4:15 p.m. when the last call ended. Through the windshield, I saw a white catering van pulling up to the venue's service entrance, Marcus most likely, coming to salvage what he could. Inside that ballroom, Emily was probably still greeting guests, blissfully unaware that her perfect wedding was about to become a very expensive lesson. Michael was likely boasting in business talk with his father's friends, confident in his superiority over a woman like me, who had worked her whole life with her own two hands. Neither of them understood what they had truly cost themselves today. I started the engine and eased out of the parking space, driving slowly past the venue's front entrance. Through the tall windows, I caught fleeting glimpses of the reception in progress, crystal glasses lifted in toasts, elegant figures gliding across polished floors. All of it about to change. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Emily's name lit up the screen. I let the phone ring unanswered. The dashboard clock read 4:20 p.m. when the first truck arrived. Bellingham Blooms was painted in elegant script across the white paneling. Susan sat behind the wheel with two assistants riding shotgun. They parked near the service entrance and began unloading empty containers with businesslike efficiency. Through the venue windows, I could still see the cocktail reception in full swing. Crystal glasses glittered under the chandelier light as guests mingled around Emily's imported orchids. Michael gestured broadly to a circle of men in expensive suits, no doubt boasting about his latest business venture. Neither the bride nor the groom noticed the florist team slipping in quietly through the side doors. Emily stood near the main entrance, radiant in $12,000 worth of silk and pearls, accepting congratulations from a steady stream of relatives. Her laugh rang across the ballroom, bright, carefree, untouchable, but that sound would change soon enough. Susan appeared in the ballroom doorway, flanked by two large plastic containers in her arms. Susan walked straight toward the main altar arrangement, her assistants flanking the smaller displays. Guests began to turn, confusion creeping in where celebration had been, as the team started dismantling the centerpiece. "Excuse me." Emily hurried toward Susan, wearing the practiced smile of someone used to managing staff. "We're in the middle of our reception. Whatever you need can wait until later." Susan straightened, a bundle of white orchids clutched firmly in her hands. "Ma'am, I'm Susan from Bellingham Blooms. Payment authorization for these arrangements was canceled 40 minutes ago. I need to recover our property." Emily's smile flickered but held. "That's impossible. Everything was paid for weeks ago. The account holder, Catherine Flores, contacted us directly. All payments have been stopped." Susan continued removing flowers with professional detachment. "I have written authorization to collect our arrangements." The color drained from Emily's face. Around them, guests had fallen into complete silence. Michael strode across the room in quick, forceful steps, his expression shifting from confusion to anger. "What exactly is happening here?" His voice carried the authority of a man unaccustomed to being questioned. "Payment issues, sir. We're collecting unpaid merchandise." Susan's assistant began wrapping the altar arrangement carefully in protective plastic. "This is completely unacceptable." Michael's face flushed red. "Get your manager on the phone immediately." "I am the manager," Susan replied firmly, "and our contract clearly states that canceled payments void our service obligations." Susan nodded toward her assistants, who moved swiftly to begin collecting the table centerpieces while guests watched in stunned silence. Outside, the Elegant Affairs catering van pulled up just as Susan's team continued their systematic removal. Marcus emerged with 3 staff members at his side, their faces set, grim with purpose. They entered through the main doors this time, making no attempt at discretion. Emily watched as the orchids vanished into plastic containers, her perfect composure cracking like fine china. There has to be some mistake. My mother wouldn't. She couldn't. "Ma'am, we need to cease food service immediately," Marcus said as he approached, clipboard in hand. Payment authorization was revoked at 4:15. We're contractually obligated to protect our equipment and remaining inventory. Michael stepped quickly between Marcus and Emily, his voice rising. This is my wedding reception. You can't just stop service in the middle of an event. Sir, we can, and we must. The tension thickened as Marcus spoke firmly, his staff already moving. White cloths draped over serving stations one by one, the aroma of unfinished dishes fading beneath silence. Guests shifted nervously, their champagne glasses untouched, conversations reduced to sharp whispers. Phones rang, shrill, intrusive, against the suffocating stillness. The string quartet faltered, their bows lowering as an equipment coordinator rushed in. One by one, microphones went dead, speakers powered down, and the soft glow of ambient lights dimmed as cables were pulled. Emily stood frozen in the center of it all, her pristine wedding gown glowing against the chaos unraveling around her. This can't be happening. Not today. Not like this. Michael's voice cut through the commotion, sharp and suspicious. Emily, what kind of arrangement did your family make? Her eyes darted, panic seeping through the cracks of her composure. I don't know. Everything was supposed to be handled. Her voice cracked, trembling for the first time. In the corner, the venue coordinator approached cautiously, phone pressed to her ear, urgency written all over her face. The coordinator finally lowered her phone, stepping toward Emily with visible reluctance. Mrs. Anderson, I've just spoken with our accounting department. All payments for today's event originated from a single account belonging to Catherine Flores. That account holder has revoked authorization for every transaction. Emily's composure shattered like glass. At last, the little girl who had dismissed me from her own celebration began to understand the cost of my generosity and the weight of her cruelty. With trembling fingers, Emily pulled out her phone, scrolling to a familiar contact. Outside in the parking lot, my phone buzzed against the dashboard, her name glowing on the screen with desperate urgency. I didn't answer. Not yet. 25 years of loving that girl had led to this moment. 25 years of believing that sacrifice would build gratitude instead of entitlement. She was only 3 when her father died. Cancer took David in 6 brutal months, leaving me with a toddler who asked for daddy every morning and every night. I could have remarried quickly, found someone to share the burden. Instead, I chose to be everything Emily needed on my own. Mommy, will you read me another story? She had asked at age 5, curled against my chest in her pink pajamas. I had already read 3 books that night, and an early morning of work awaited me. But her green eyes, David's eyes, were filled with such trust. Of course, sweetheart. Mommy always has time for you. That became my promise. Catherine Flores always had time for Emily. Time, money, whatever she needed to be happy. Private school tuition swallowed half my quarterly income when Emily turned 8. The best education money can buy, I told myself as I signed checks that cut into business growth and my own comfort. When I told her about Riverside Academy, she threw her arms around me. Thank you, Mommy. I'll study really hard and make you proud. And she did. Straight A's. School plays where I sat in the front row, my worn hands clapping louder than anyone else's. Every time she came off stage, her eyes searched only for mine, glowing with accomplishment. High school changed everything. Riverside Academy meant wealthy classmates with trust funds and summer homes. Emily began to notice the differences. Her 16th birthday party cost more than some people's yearly wages. A shiny car sat in the driveway, the catering professional, decorations imported. And yet she frowned. Everyone else got BMWs, Mom. This Honda is kind of embarrassing. That was 2015, the first time money became expected rather than appreciated. I should have seen the warning sign. College nearly bankrupted me. Emily's dream was Northwestern University. Prestige came with a price that went far beyond tuition. There were sorority dues, spring break trips to Cancun, and a semester abroad in Italy. Every few months, a new expense surfaced, always labeled essential. Mom, I need 3,000 for the business fraternity trip. It's crucial for networking. Phone calls became transaction requests. Visits home shrank to holidays only. When she did call, her voice lasted just long enough to explain how much she needed and how fast she needed it. Graduate school brought Michael into her life. Old money, family connections, everything I could never provide despite decades of labor. Emily's tone toward me began to shift. At gatherings, she would whisper, "Mom, could you wear something nicer? Michael's friends will be there." The little girl who once clung to me after bedtime stories now seemed embarrassed by the woman who had built her entire world. My work, my sacrifices, none of it seemed to matter in her new circle. Last Christmas, Emily introduced me to Michael's parents with a dismissive smile. "This is my mom, Catherine. She runs a small business. 30 years of labor, of keeping a roof over her head, of funding the very lifestyle she flaunted, reduced to 2 words." Emily's voice carried no pride, only a careful distance, as if admitting too much would stain her image. "Mom, we need to talk about wedding funding. Michael's family has certain expectations, not gratitude, not even a simple thank you, just expectations, like my life's work existed only to finance her entry into their world." Planning sessions felt less like family moments and more like business negotiations. Emily brought spreadsheets. Michael spoke of cost efficiency. Neither of them acknowledged that every line item represented months of my labor, years of sacrifice. Imported orchids from Ecuador, champagne bottles costing more than my workers earned in a week, a dress worth more than most families' monthly rent. And yet Emily still said, "This isn't about money, Mom. It's about quality. Michael's family knows quality. Quality that my money bought, but my presence supposedly diminished." My phone buzzed again. Emily's third attempt in barely 5 minutes. Through the tall windows, I could see her pacing, the silk of her $12,000 gown trailing behind like a flag of surrender. 25 years of sacrifice had brought us here, not to a grateful daughter celebrating her mother's generosity, but to a desperate woman finally realizing what she had thrown away. The irony was perfect. I reached for the phone at last. Time to answer. The engine hummed softly as I pulled out of the parking lot, Emily's frantic silhouette shrinking in my rearview mirror. Her name flashed again and again, 7 calls in 10 minutes, glowing like a beacon in the fading light. This time, I let it ring until the last tone. My timing, not hers. The drive home took 20 minutes through Spokane's Saturday traffic. For 20 minutes, my phone lit up nonstop, Emily's name pulsing with each desperate attempt. By the time I pulled into my driveway, she had left 4 voicemails. I sat in the garage, engine off, listening as the door closed behind me like the curtain at the end of an act. Voicemail 1. "Mom, something's wrong with the payments. There's been a mistake. Call me back immediately." Voicemail 2. "This isn't funny anymore. The vendors are taking everything. People are staring. Just call me back." Voicemail 3. "Please, Mom, I don't understand what's happening. Michael's family is asking questions I can't answer." Voicemail 4, her voice breaking. "I need you. Please pick up, please." The phone rang again as I finished the 4th message. Emily's name lit up on the screen, paired with her college graduation photo, the last time she had hugged me without asking for money first. I answered on the 5th ring. "Hello, Emily." "Mom." "Finally, what have you done? How could you destroy my wedding?" Her voice carried pure panic now, none of the cold dismissal from earlier. Good. Panic meant awareness. Awareness was the first step toward understanding. "I didn't destroy anything," I said, keeping my voice calm, measured. "I simply stopped paying for things." "You can't just stop." "This is my wedding day. There are 60 people here asking why the flowers are gone, why dinner service stopped." "Where are you calling from?" I asked. "The hotel. They said we couldn't stay until the bills were settled, so we were asked to leave." "Emily, listen carefully," I said, my tone sharpening. "When was the last time you thanked me for anything?" "What? Mom, This isn't the time for lectures. I need you to call these vendors and fix this mess. Answer the question. Silence stretched. In the background, Michael's voice cut in, sharp with frustration. Finally, Emily stammered. I don't remember specific times, but I've always been grateful. You know that. No, I replied firmly. I don't know that. What I do know, I continued, my voice steady as steel, is that 3 hours ago you told me I didn't belong at your wedding, a wedding I paid for in full. I didn't mean it like that. I was stressed. It was just wedding nerves, she pleaded, her tone shifting into the same coaxing voice she used back in college whenever she wanted money for spring break trips. Mom, please, I'll make this up to you. We can talk about everything later, but right now, I need you to authorize the payments so we can save what's left of the reception. What's left? I asked coldly. The cake is still here. Some guests are still here. The photographer is waiting to see if we can work something out, Emily rattled, her voice trembling. And what exactly do you plan to use for payment? There was a long pause. I thought you would handle it. You always handle it. I always have, I said evenly. That's true. Do you know how much I've spent on you over the past 25 years? Mom, please don't make me guess numbers right now. I'm in crisis mode. Take a guess. Rough estimate. I don't know, maybe 50,000? I almost laughed. 50,000 wouldn't have covered her sophomore year at Northwestern. Emily, I said firmly, I've spent over $300,000 on your education, housing, transportation, and lifestyle since your father died, and that doesn't even include what I've paid today. The line went quiet, except for the sound of her uneven breathing. 300. That can't be right. It's conservative, I replied, and I have documentation for every single expense. Why am I telling you this now? I asked, my tone sharp but calm. Because you've never asked. Not once in 25 years did you ask about the cost of your lifestyle or the burden it placed on me. Burden? I'm your daughter. Yes, you are. And I loved you enough to sacrifice everything for your happiness. The real question is, what have you ever sacrificed for mine? On the other end, I heard muffled arguing, Michael's voice rising, sharp with frustration. Emily came back on the line, her tone shaky. Mom, Michael's family is really upset. They're asking questions about our finances, about how we're going to pay for everything. That's between you and your husband now, I said flatly. But I don't have that kind of money. You know I don't. Then maybe it's time you learned how to earn it. What do you want from me then? Emily's voice cracked, teetering between anger and desperation. I want you to understand what you threw away this afternoon, I replied, steady and unflinching, when you dismissed the woman who made your entire lifestyle possible. I understand now. I was wrong. Can we fix this? We'll see, I said firmly. I'm reviewing our entire financial relationship. We'll discuss it properly, when I'm ready. Then I ended the call. Through my kitchen window, the lights of Spokane glittered in the distance as I sat down at my desk. Warm lamplight spilled across 25 years of meticulous records, filing cabinets lined up like silent sentinels, guarding every receipt, every transfer Emily had never cared to ask about. Tonight, those records would finally serve their purpose. This wasn't revenge. This was an audit. The first folder, Riverside Academy, Education 2020, 12 years of private school tuition, each payment logged with bank transfers and semester reports. $8,000 a year in 2008, climbing to $12,000 by graduation. The math was sobering, $126,000 for elementary and high school alone. I opened a new spreadsheet, my fingers moving with practiced precision. Date, description, amount, category, running total. 25 years of motherhood reduced to data points and formulas. The next folder was thicker than the rest. Northwestern University. Dorm contracts, meal plans, study abroad programs, and tuition bills that seemed endless. $52,000 a year for 4 years. Room and board, another $15,000 annually. Spring break in Cancun, $3,500. A summer in Italy, $8,200. Page by page, receipt by receipt, the total climbed, $284,000. 4 years of college that had cost me more than 5 years of labor. The transportation folder revealed its own story. Her first car at 16, a reliable Honda Civic, $18,000. Within 6 months, she sneered, "Everyone else drives BMWs, Mom." Second car at 19, a BMW 320i, $28,000. Third car at 25, a BMW X3, because Michael's friends all drove luxury SUVs. Each vehicle carried its own trail of expenses, insurance premiums, maintenance, registration. Hidden costs a mother absorbed silently without complaint. The folder labeled living expenses revealed the darkest surprises. After graduation, I paid for her apartment in Lincoln Park, $2,800 a month for 3 years. When her spending exceeded the allowance, I cleared her credit cards, over $1,000 a month for 2 years. Designer clothes, spa treatments, vacations with friends whose parents funded the same careless lifestyle. The totals grew like compound interest. Education, $410,000, transportation, $75,000, housing, $125,000, personal expenses, $180,000, and the wedding, $147,000. The calculator glowed with a staggering number, $937,000. Nearly $1 million poured out over 25 years. I opened the photo albums I'd kept all these years. Emily at 8, gap-toothed and glowing after her first school play. "Thank you for coming, Mommy. Did you hear how loud they clapped?" Emily at 12, triumphant after winning the spelling bee. "I thought about you when I was nervous. It helped me remember the words." When had she stopped seeing me as someone worth thanking? When had I become nothing more than a walking wallet, a background figure funding her life? My phone rang again, Emily's 14th call since our conversation ended. This time, she left a voicemail. "Mom, please answer. I've been thinking about what you said. I know I haven't been grateful enough. I know I've taken you for granted. Michael's family is threatening to leave if we can't explain the financial situation. I need to know what you want from me." What I wanted was 25 years of appreciation that would never come. What I needed was proof that she finally understood the value of what she had so casually dismissed. I printed the spreadsheet summary and organized the supporting documents into thick manila folders. Education, transportation, housing, personal expenses, wedding costs. Each folder was heavy with evidence, love translated into dollars, sacrifice measured in transfers and receipts. Tomorrow would bring a conversation Emily wasn't prepared for, questions of responsibility, accountability, and the true cost of entitlement. The documentation spread across my desk like evidence in a courtroom, nearly $1 million in support, provided without question, without gratitude. Emily had lived like royalty while treating her benefactor like hired help. That arrangement was finished. From this point on, the terms would be different. My phone buzzed again, Emily's name flashing on the screen. I reached for it, then stopped. Not yet. Let her sit with the helplessness she had never known. Let her taste the panic of dependence without guarantees. The real education would continue in the morning. Sunday morning arrived crisp and clear. My briefcase sat by the door, heavy with 25 years of records. Richards and Associates had agreed to an emergency consultation at 9 a.m., professional courtesy among those who knew that some matters could not wait. The law office smelled of polished wood and authority. Margaret Richards herself met me in the conference room, her silver hair gleaming under the lights, her suit sharp with precision. "Mrs. Flores," she said after scanning the documents, "your record-keeping is exceptional. The total, nearly $1 million, will not be ignored." Margaret spread the folders across the polished table, scanning with practiced efficiency. "These records allow us several options. reclassifying the support as loans, or establishing promissory notes. Given the pattern of escalating demands without responsibility, we can issue a formal demand letter. Her pen scratched across a yellow legal pad. 30 days for repayment with full documentation attached. If they fail to comply, legal proceedings will follow. This reframes your daughter's entitlement not as family drama, but as business liability. By 11 o'clock, the documents were ready. Official letterhead, formal language, and terms that carried weight. The demand was clear: repayment of $937,000 within 30 days, or legal action would begin. Margaret slid the papers into an envelope. We'll arrange courier delivery this afternoon. A signature will be required, creating an official record of receipt. I nodded. The time for silent sacrifice was over. I drove home with copies of everything, a mix of sadness and grim satisfaction tightening in my chest. By 2:15 p.m., the courier called. Delivery confirmed at the Spokane Grand Hotel, room 1247. Emily Clark Anderson's signature was on the receipt. The process had officially begun. I imagined her confusion when the hotel desk rang about a legal delivery, her assumption it was vendor paperwork, only for Michael to open the envelope and watch the truth unfold. At 2:47 p.m., my phone lit up with Emily's number, again and again. Message 1. Mom, what is this? A legal document. This can't be serious. Message 2. 900,000? That's impossible. You never said these were loans. Message 3. Please call me back. Michael's family is demanding answers I don't have. Message 4, her voice breaking. I don't understand how everything went so wrong so fast. At the Grand Hotel, Emily and Michael were discovering what accountability looked like when backed by law. I didn't respond. Some lessons only sink in when silence does the teaching. Through my kitchen window, the sunset painted Spokane in shades of fire and ash. For 25 years, I had been the safety net, catching every fall, covering every mistake, paying every bill. Not anymore. This time, Emily would feel the ground beneath her feet. That night, I slept with the folders stacked neatly on the chair beside my bed, like armor waiting for battle. Morning would bring confrontation, Emily demanding explanations, Michael sneering, his parents looking at me as though I were beneath them. But this time, I wouldn't walk away in silence. I had my evidence. I had my voice, and for the first time in decades, I had the will to use both. Sunday morning found me in the kitchen, the smell of coffee filling the air. I set 2 mugs on the table, though I knew only one might be used. The folders were stacked neatly beside them, each labeled in bold ink: education, transportation, housing, personal, wedding. For years I had sat at this table as a provider, signing checks, approving payments. Today I sat as a judge, waiting for the knock I knew would come. The knock came just before 9. Sharp, urgent. When I opened the door, Emily stood there pale, her eyes swollen from crying. Michael hovered behind her, jaw tight, hands shoved into his pockets. Neither carried the glow of newlyweds. They looked like defendants summoned to court. I stepped aside, motioning them in. The folders waited on the table, silent and heavy as judgment. I didn't waste time on pleasantries. Sit down, I said, my tone leaving no room for refusal. Emily lowered herself hesitantly into the chair, Michael following with stiff defiance. I slid the first folder across the table. We're going to review 25 years of expenses. Every dollar I've spent. Every sacrifice you've ignored. And when we're finished, you'll understand why yesterday was the last day I ever play the fool. The folder snapped open, pages fanning across the table. Riverside Academy, I began. 12 years of tuition, $126,000. Emily's face drained of color. Michael leaned back, arms crossed, but his eyes flicked toward the receipts. I tapped the next tab. Northwestern University, 4 years, $284,000. The silence in my kitchen grew thick, broken only by the shuffle of paper sliding like a judge's gavel. I turned another folder, the pages heavy with contracts and receipts. Your first car at 16, $18,000. The BMW at 19 to 28,000. The X3 at 25 to 42,000. Insurance, maintenance, registration, another 12,000. Emily's lips parted, but no words came. Michael's jaw tightened, his fingers drumming against the table as if to drown out the numbers. Apartments, credit cards, clothing, vacations, all together, over $900,000. I folded my hands. Nearly $1 million, Emily. And not a cent of gratitude. Emily's hands trembled on her lap. I never asked you to spend that much, she whispered, desperation bleeding through her words. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on hers. You didn't have to ask. Every sigh, every complaint, every comparison to someone richer, that was your request, and I delivered every single time. Michael finally broke his silence. This is absurd. No parent expects repayment from their child. No parent, I replied, expects to be discarded like trash at her own daughter's wedding either. The kitchen air grew dense, heavy as stone. Emily's eyes brimmed with tears, her carefully crafted poise unraveling. I spoke slowly, each word deliberate, like a gavel striking. From this moment forward, there will be no more blank checks, no more lifelines handed without accountability. If you want help, Emily, you will repay what you owe, every dollar, every debt, before you ever ask me for another cent. Her sob broke the silence, sharp and raw. Michael pushed his chair back, anger flashing in his eyes. This is extortion. You can't treat family like this. I turned to him, my gaze steady. Family? I repeated. Family doesn't humiliate the very person who built the foundation under their feet. Family doesn't measure love only in money and then slam the door when the checks keep coming. He opened his mouth, but no words came. My silence pressed harder than any argument. I turned back to Emily, her face streaked with tears, her hands trembling in her lap. This is your choice now, I said quietly, but every syllable cut sharp. You can continue down the path you're on, entitlement, excuses, dependence. If you do, you'll walk it without me. I slid the final folder across the table. Or you can face reality. Acknowledge what's been given. Start standing on your own 2 feet. Those are the only 2 options left. Emily broke. Her shoulders collapsed as sobs shook through her frame. Please, Mom, don't do this. I'll change, I promise. Just don't leave me like this. Her voice was raw, stripped of pride, the same desperate tone I remembered from when she was a child afraid of the dark. But I wasn't bending this time. Change isn't about words, Emily. It's about proof. And I'll believe you when I see action, not before. I gathered the folders into a neat stack and rose from my chair. That's all I have to say. Emily reached for me, but I stepped back. Michael's glare burned, yet he said nothing. At the doorway, I paused just long enough to deliver the verdict. The next move is yours. Show me change, or show me nothing. Either way, I'll survive. The question is, will you? I left them in the kitchen, the silence heavier than any shouting match. Emily sat crumpled in her chair, Michael pacing like a caged animal. The folders remained on the table, a ledger of love turned into evidence. As the door closed behind me, the morning air felt sharp and clean in my lungs. For the first time in 25 years, I wasn't carrying anyone else's burden. As I walked down the quiet street, I thought of the truth carved into my life. Family is not meant to be exploited. Love is not measured in bank transfers. They had mistaken my sacrifices for weakness, but today proved the opposite. When a mother has nothing left to lose, she becomes unstoppable. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this. Respect is not a gift. It's a duty. And gratitude should never be optional. I gave my daughter everything, but the moment she chose pride over love, she lost the one person who would have stood by her forever. Remember this truth: money fades, appearances crumble, but family built on loyalty will endure. I closed my front door and leaned against it, the soft glow of the lamp filling the room with calm. For once, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. I wasn't the shadow in the background anymore, the endless provider. I was Catherine Flores, a mother, yes, but also a woman who had finally claimed her dignity back. And dignity, once taken, is never returned. It is seized. Don't ever mistake an aging mother for weakness. Years may bend her back, but they sharpen her resolve. And when love is betrayed, when sacrifice is mocked, she becomes something far stronger than anyone imagined. Because a woman with nothing left to lose is a force the world should fear. The house was silent, but my heart was steady. I poured myself a cup of coffee, the steam curling upward like a quiet victory. Some battles end with shouting, others with broken glass. Mine ended with silence, signatures, and the undeniable weight of truth. I was no longer the mother who begged for a place at her daughter's table. I was the woman who had built that table and chosen, at last, to stand and walk away. Outside, the world carried on. Cars passed, children laughed, life moved forward as if nothing had happened. But inside me, everything had changed. For the first time in decades, I was not just a mother defined by sacrifice. I was Catherine Flores, and my story was no longer one of giving without end, but of reclaiming dignity, drawing lines, and teaching the cost of betrayal. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.